Good afternoon, Jasmine. How are you today?
I'm doing good, I think.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Just before we get started, I want to let you know a little bit about confidentiality. So, everything that you say to me today is going to be kept confidential, with the exception of any information pertaining to harm, whether that be to you or to someone else, and also any information about like child abuse, though that is outside the confines of confidentiality. But everything else you say to me will be kept confidential completely, so feel free to tell me anything that you would like. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so let's get started. So how old are you?
I am 16.
Okay, and what's your date of birth?
I was born January 1st, 2003.
Okay, and what gender do you identify with?
I identify as a female.
Okay, and what's your race?
I am South Asian.
Okay. And your marital status, are you single, are you married?
I am currently married.
Okay, and how long have you been married?
I've been married for a couple months now.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah,
And
it's true love.
oh, that's great. And what is your living situation? Do you live with your spouse or?
I live with my spouse and my father. We live in a palace.
Okay. Okay, that sounds nice. And do you like living there?
I do. Sometimes it feels, like I have to stay there. Like I would much rather go out and explore the city, but I'm not allowed to. So sometimes it just feels confining.
Okay, I can definitely see how that would be frustrating.
Yeah.
So we can talk a little bit more about your living situation and how you feel about that. I'm also going to ask you some background questions about your family history, your education, just things like that, so that I can get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll talk about what brought you in today.
Okay.
So where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Agrabah. That's also where I grew up, in the same palace that I live in now.
Okay, so you've been living there for a while then.
Yeah, my whole life basically.
Okay, and who raised you?
My father, the Sultan, raised me with the help of some maids and nurses who lived in the palace.
Okay, and do you have any siblings, any brothers or sisters?
No, I don't have any siblings.
Okay. And you said that you are married, so is this your first marriage or have you been married before?
Yes, my first and only marriage.
Okay, and how would you characterize your marriage?
Oh, it's great. It's true love.
Okay, and when did you get married?
I was married on May 5th of this year, 2019.
Okay. And do you or your spouse have any children at the moment?
No children.
Okay. So it sounds like your marriage is going pretty well. It sounds like it's recent, so that's an exciting time. I'm glad that you seem to be pretty happy with that relationship.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's helped me feel like my life is not so boring. Like my life was really boring before I met Aladdin, and I think that, having him in my life, even though I'm still not allowed to leave the palace, just something else to do, really.
Okay, that makes sense. And let's talk a little bit about your educational history. So what is the highest grade you completed in school?
I went all the way through high school, but I was schooled in the palace. I wasn't allowed to leave, so my father brought in tutors to teach me, but I learned everything that a regular kid would learn.
Okay, so did you like school? Did you like being homeschooled in the palace?
I really liked my tutors, but sometimes I would lash out at them because I was so frustrated at having to be in the palace all the time, and I wanted to be around other children, and so I would get really angry with them, and I would tell my pet tiger to attack them.
Wow.
But I know learning was was really my only source of freedom, so I did enjoy learning. But
Okay.
school itself that felt confining.
Okay. So you mentioned that you lashed out at your tutors some, especially with your pet tiger. So did you ever get in trouble for your behavior at school?
No, because my father is the Sultan, so they can't really punish me. They would tell him, but he would just kind of ignore it.
Okay, and why do you think that was?
That he ignored it?
Yes.
Because I am his princess and his only daughter, and he would do anything to protect me, which is why he keeps me in the palace.
Okay. Did you have good grades in school, or what were your grades like?
Yes, I actually did do pretty well. The tutors always gave me A's.
Okay. And were you ever enrolled in any form of like special education, or did you have like certain classes that were harder than others for you?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay. And so since you said you were homeschooled, did you obtain a GED or no?
I did, yeah.
Okay, that's good. So, since you didn't get in trouble for this behavior at school, you were never suspended or expelled or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me about your school or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then we'll move on to your employment history. So, what was your first job?
Well, I've never worked a day in my life because I am a princess. So my family is very rich and we don't have to work.
Okay. Did you ever have any like career aspirations, like things that you wanted to do but weren't able to do because you said that you aren't allowed to leave the palace?
Well, I really want to be Sultan one day, but women
Okay.
aren't allowed to be Sultan. So I'm going to have to spend my whole life in this position.
That must be frustrating.
It is frustrating. Yes.
Okay. And as princess, you don't currently handle your personal finances?
No, my father does.
Okay. So have you had any significant problems handling money, or that hasn't really been left up to you?
Well, sometimes I like to steal from the palace funds. Even though they are mine, I have to get my father's permission to use them, but sometimes I just take them.
Okay, and why is it that you do that?
Well, I want to have control over my own life.
Okay, that's understandable. So we will move on to some more history. Have you ever served in any of the armed forces?
No. I've asked my father if I could help lead one of our many troops, but he says that's not for women.
Okay. And so we will move on to your medical history. Are you aware of any complications during your birth?
No.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did you crawl, walk, and talk when you were supposed to?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Have you ever suffered from a head injury or a loss of consciousness?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. Are you currently being treated for any physical illnesses or injuries?
Yes, actually, I currently have a hurt leg. I hurt it trying to jump over the palace walls.
Okay. So how serious is that injury?
It's just a sprain, but my father did give me a talking to he was more angry that I had tried to run away.
Okay. And when was this that you tried to run away?
It was before I met Aladdin.
Okay, so before your marriage.
Yeah.
So it seems that you and Aladdin's relationship has really done a lot to change the way that you've been living in the palace.
Yeah, it has, I would say.
Okay. And as a result of that leg injury, are you currently taking any medications?
No, no, no.
Okay. Have you ever suffered from seizures or blackouts?
No.
Okay. Now, this next part, the abuse history, can be a little sensitive for people, so just a reminder that everything you say to me is kept confidential, so feel free to share anything that you would like.
Okay.
So have you ever been physically abused?
No.
What about sexually abused?
No.
Okay. And last, have you ever been emotionally abused?
Well, my father is very controlling, and he doesn't allow me to do anything for myself, and sometimes that feels very abusive to me, even though he says he has my best intentions in mind.
Right. Well, sometimes abusers can say things like that. They're doing this for you, and that we don't necessarily have to believe them. So
That's true.
that sounds very difficult, though.
Yeah.
And we can definitely discuss that a little more in depth in a minute. So before we get back to that, do you have any substance use history with alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, any type of drugs, or anything else like that?
No, my father doesn't keep anything like that in the palace.
Okay, so no substance related problems,
No.
and you've never been in treatment for substance abuse.
No.
Okay. Now, you said that you sometimes have stolen things from the palace. Have you ever gotten into any legal trouble related to stealing or anything else like that?
Well, yes, actually. I don't know if my father knows I steal from the palace, but I have stolen from the marketplace outside of the palace, and I've been caught doing that.
Okay, do you have any current charges against you as a result of that?
Well, no, I used my my royal powers to get my charges dropped.
Okay, so does your father know about this?
Yes, he does. And it just made him be even more strict with me.
Okay. So let's discuss a little bit of mental health history. Are you aware of any family history of mental illness?
Not that I know of. I never knew my mother, so I don't know about her, but not my father.
Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about you and your personal mental health. How would you describe your mood generally?
Well, I really have fluctuating moods, I would say. I often feel, anxious about my controlled daily life, and then sometimes sad about it as well. And then sometimes I just feel angry. I just feel angry for no reason at all, it feels like. And I sometimes lash out at the wrong people. And then sometimes instead of this anger, I'll feel the strong need for impulsive decisions. I'll just want to run away and jump the fence and, tell my tiger to attack people. And it's just, I'm very rarely happy. Only when I'm with Aladdin am I happy.
Okay. So you mentioned that you're happy with Aladdin. Is that pretty consistent? Like, consistently when you're with him, you feel happy?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, so do you think that you and Aladdin have any sort of marital issues? Do you fight a lot, anything like that? Or it's relatively consistent and a good relationship?
Yeah, I would say it's a great relationship. It's true love.
Okay. So you said that sometimes you feel angry or you feel sad or impulsive. Does any of this lead to any suicidal ideation or gestures?
No, I've never felt the need for that.
Okay. And you said that you sometimes feel anxious. Could you talk a little more about that?
I feel anxious about just what am I gonna do in the future. I can't live in this palace for the rest of my life. I hate the feeling of being trapped. And sometimes this even it takes over.
Okay. And sometimes when you feel trapped, does this lead to irritability?
Yeah, it really does, and sometimes just for no reason. Like, I won't have even been feeling anxious, just out of nowhere I'll just feel angry and just the need to just take it out on someone.
Okay, so you want to lash out sometimes when you're feeling irritable.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had any sleep problems?
Yeah, these anxious and irritable, like the way that I feel, it really causes me to have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. But then sometimes when I'm feeling more sad and just depressed about how my life is going, I just want to lay in bed and sleep, just nothing but sleep.
Okay, so your sleep schedule is a little up and down
Yeah.
according to your moods.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you ever have any delusions or hallucinations during the day?
No.
Okay. Do you have any other physical symptoms that you think might be related to this anxiety and anger?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. Do you have any previous diagnoses of mental health issues?
No, my father, he's finally fed up with the way I'm acting, so this is the first time I've ever been to any sort of therapy.
Okay, so you've never received treatment for your mental health before?
No.
Okay. And so, as a result, you have never taken any psychiatric medications, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Well, now let's talk about your daily activities. So, I know that you said that you aren't allowed to leave the palace, so how do you spend a typical day?
Well, a typical day, I just stay around the palace. You know, I'm done with school now, so I don't do that anymore. And if Aladdin is around, then I'll hang out with him. But now that he is going to be Sultan one day, he's often busy. So when he's not around, I often find people to mess with or people to sick my tiger on. Just things to I'm just so bored.
Okay, so you stay in the palace during the day, and when Aladdin's around, you like to hang out with him, but when he's not, you have a lot of boredom, and this boredom leads you to, you said, to mess with people?
Yeah, like the staff and things like that.
Okay. Do you think that this feeling like you want to mess with these people, this is purely out of boredom, or it has more of an ill intent behind it?
Well, I never want to actually hurt anyone, but it just keeps me from being bored, and it also helps with the anger that I feel sometimes.
Okay. And so, what kind of things do you do for fun?
Well, like I said, when Aladdin is around, I like to hang out with him. I also do love my pet tiger. I like to hang out with my pet tiger.
Okay, and that sounds good. And so, lately, have you noticed any deterioration in your personal care?
No, I have a staff to help with that.
Okay, how about a recent constriction of interest in activities?
I would say yeah, because like sometimes when I feel really sad, I just don't want to do anything. I just want to lay in bed.
Okay, and how often would you say you feel like that?
I don't know, maybe once or twice a week.
Okay. Once or twice a week. And have you had an impaired ability to interact with others?
Yeah, sometimes when I get like the angry or sad, it really, I yell at my father, or when I'm sad, I don't want to talk to anyone.
Okay, and how about an impaired ability to understand things or to remember instructions?
No issues with that.
Okay. And so you've talked a lot about Aladdin, your husband, and your father, but you haven't mentioned really anyone else. And so could you tell me a little bit more about your social life?
Well, the reason I haven't mentioned anyone else is because there is no one else. I'm not allowed to socialize with anyone. I was barely allowed to socialize with Aladdin when I first met him because he was a peasant. And I would interact with my tutors when I was in school, but I'm not in school anymore. it's just, I feel so isolated, and it's just so frustrating. And my tiger is really my only company most days.
Okay, so you see your tiger as a friend.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have, so you sound like you're frustrated being stuck in the palace, so you have a desire to go and form new friendships? Like, you would socialize more if you were allowed out, you think?
Yes, I would love to meet the people who live in Agrabah. I mean, I am their princess, and I don't even know them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and could you tell me a little bit more about your romantic relationships? Was Aladdin, I know Aladdin's your only marriage, your first marriage, but were there any real romantic interest before him, or is this more of a recent development in your life?
Well, my father has brought so many suitors to the castle before Aladdin, but I never liked any of them, and I never really even gave them a chance because I was so frustrated by my father trying to set up an arranged marriage.
That does sound frustrating. So how did you meet Aladdin?
Well, I met Aladdin one day when I had ran away, and then we got married a couple weeks later.
Okay, so you didn't know Aladdin for too long before you got married.
No, but I just knew it was true love.
Right, okay. And so what if you and Aladdin, or you and your father, were to have an argument? How would you handle that situation?
Well, at the slightest bit of criticism, I lash out. I can't take criticism at all, and I honestly, I love conflict. I love the chance to be able to lash out and be angry, and to let people know how I'm feeling, since nobody really seems to care.
Okay. And how long have you been feeling like this lack of people caring and desire to lash out? Has this been going on for a long time?
Yes, I mean, as long as I can remember. I would say when I was a child, I was ignorant to how ridiculous it is, but ever since I first escaped the palace and ran away, I realized how trapped my life is. I hate it.
Okay. That sounds frustrating.
Yeah.
Do you ever have fights with Aladdin, or is it mainly just your father and the other people in the palace?
Well, sometimes I think I might take it out on Aladdin, but he handles it pretty well.
Okay. That's good. That's nice. So, just a little recap. So basically, you came to me to discuss these problems with anxiety and anger that you've been feeling due to being trapped in the palace. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, my father, he's finally fed up with it, but I am just relieved that he's finally letting me talk to someone about it, since I really had no one to talk to.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have you here, and I think that these are definitely some issues that we can address in therapy together. And so I look forward to having you back another time, and we can delve more into these issues. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Okay, well then I will see you next time. Thank you for coming in today, Jasmine.
Bye.